Well, hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I thought we'd do something a little bit different than a knife. I've been kind of wanting to make a lamp out of epoxy for a little while, and I found this piece of walnut left over from the jewelry box, so I figured, why don't we give this lamp a try? The other day, I was looking around the store a little bit, and I found this. It's made to go inside a wine bottle and light it up, and I thought this would be a perfect thing to start with. Unfortunately, it's not going to be a plug into the wall model, but it also makes it a little bit more mobile. We're just going to have to figure out how to deal with the cork. I found this glass vase here, which I think would make a great rigid container to cast our epoxy in, and then once the epoxy has set up, we can just hit it with a hammer and remove the epoxy. I don't know how that's actually going to work out, but it's worth giving it a shot. So why don't we move on to the next step and get the base cut out, and then we'll start moving forward from there. Okay, so I admittedly did not think about how I'm going to get this switch into the base. So I'm going to have to take this apart and just see what I can do, and I might just have to whip something together to get it to work. Now that I have the lights into the base, I went and got me some of these Everfresh flowers. I think it'll make a really nice touch to this lamp. So we'll just clip one of these and get them into the mold. So this is about what we're going to be looking at for our finished product. I think it's going to look pretty darn good. Let's get this cast in epoxy now. So that big glob of LEDs in the bottom didn't look very good. So I decided to just hot glue a couple of the flowers right around it to hide it. We'll be using this 2-part epoxy here. I haven't tried this epoxy yet in this application, so hopefully everything goes good. But you never know. So we'll just get on this and see what happens. Next, we're going to add just a dash of this mica powder, just to dazzle things up a little bit. We'll add a little bit, mix it, and see what that does. We may add more, but it's really easy to add too much. Well, that amount of mica powder we added might have been a little bit excessive. So we can't use this with the original setup, but I think we can save it somehow. Luckily, I did get a second one of these, so we'll just use it, and then we can get the replacement parts a little bit later. Run this over to the vacuum chamber really quick and suck out all those unfortunate bubbles before it starts getting hot. Okay, I would call this far from ideal, and it's definitely got way more air than I thought. But this might be a good thing. I didn't ruin the other one. We'll just have to figure out how to get more air out of it on the next try. So I'm going to let this one set overnight, as I don't have enough epoxy to try again. And we'll see what happens. We'll get more supplies in the morning. So I think it's safe to say that we can call this one a successful failure. So one thing I am not is a quitter, or at least on the second try. But sometimes the path to success also means buying obviously the wrong product and trying over again, since I ran out of all the other epoxy. However, I have learned a couple of things about mixing epoxy since the last one, and I think we can eliminate a lot of air bubbles. And now on this part, slow, consistent mixing without entraining too much air is the key. Last time, I put all of the air in there. Alright, now the spooky part. This is where it can all go wrong, especially since we got more bubbles in there than I'd like to see. Hopefully a lot of those will fall out. Now that it's been 48 hours later, we can start the demolding process. You can obviously see that some air bubbles have formed, but we can get those out on the lathe. And there's been a little bit of yellowing, but I think we all kind of expected that with the epoxy that I used. It's not meant for this application. Well, looks like I have some cleanup to do. You know what? I'd say that's far from perfect, but it's far from bad. All in all, we're looking pretty good. Not quite where we wanted to be, but I think acceptable. So next, we'll go over to the bandsaw and get the spot where we've been hooked up to the lathe cut off, and we'll get this polished up. And then wire up the electric. Well, how fun is that? We got two for the price of one. Well, not really. This one was quite a bit more expensive, since I had to go back and buy a whole bunch more epoxy for it. But we learned some valuable lessons along the way. We've got some projects coming up in the future that are going to be a lot like this one, and this was a good spot to learn a lot of lessons. So we should only get better from here, right? Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have any ideas for future projects that you would like to see, leave them in the comments below. It was good seeing you, and I will see you next time.